Okay, my friends, get ready for this. Everybody wants to find something valuable. Let's find some gold. Let's find some special gems or whatnot. Well, this man kept this rock for years thinking it was gold, trying to break it open and everything. Couldn't get it open. And it turned out to be far more valuable. Well, why would it be more valuable than gold? Let's look into that. Okay, my friends, this is going to be a trip. I always make claims, and I say I can back them up with material evidence, which I can. This is supposedly, this guy kept it thinking there was gold inside because it was so heavy, and it turned out to be a meteorite, and it's supposed to be extremely expensive. Now, what I want you to look at is this structure right here. All right, I'm going to show you these in very close details in a minute. And then this right down here. And then this red spot here and this dark spot over here. Now, I am going to show you these in extreme detail because they cut a slab off of this. And I'll let you think what you think. I already know what I think. Okay, more evidence to support my statements. They found this meteorite. This guy was hanging on to for years, and he thought it was made, there was gold inside of it because it was so heavy, but it was actually a meteorite, and it has a high percentage of iron. That's why it's so heavy. And it's an H5 ordinary chondrite, which is no big deal for for a meteorite. Now, I have meteorites here. I have 3 of them that I'll be showing you in a minute. 2 of them are metal meteorites. You see the magnets sticking off them, and this one just happens to be a lung, and this I don't know what it is, and this one here I will show you what it is in a minute. But all of these things are body parts, and the one that they're going to show you that he found, this metal, I have the exact same thing here. Where do you see this? This is beyond bizarre. This is where they cut it, and we're going to be looking at this spot here. You see that little circular spot? You see that circular spot over there, different color. This one's blackish and this one's reddish. And then you see this color in the center here. This goes beyond bizarre. Where do you see this? Okay, buckle up. Everybody knows what an iron meteorite is, right? Everybody knows that. Well, there's also something that's called a chondritic iron meteorite, where there's still a lot of iron in it, but there's also all these other impurities in it. But this one has a lot of iron, and it's an iron meteorite. And it also contains rare meteorites that contain organic molecules like amino acids, the building blocks of life. Well, let's look into this because I have the exact same thing here in my shop. And I'll show you. You make a determination if I'm right or not. All right, look at this now. This is that meteorite, and they cut a slab right off here, and that's the slab they cut off. Now, what I want you to look at is this hole right here and this hole right here. All right, you see those 2 holes? What's that about? You see this round thing right here? You see this? And if you follow it around, it's basically round the whole thing here. Why is that so round? And why do we have this hole here and this hole here? And everything's burnt off. And then we have these really strappy looking things coming up here. And then we have this reddish looking spot here and another one up here. And don't forget this structure here. Now let's look at this close up, and I'm going to show you what I have, and I believe it is exactly the same thing. I have one that didn't come through space, but is basically the same as that. And I will show you. And I had mine CAT scan. And a CAT scan, you can't hardly tell the difference. I'm not kidding you. Now look at this. Just check this out. Remember, you see that circle right there and that little dot and the little ball in the center? You see the same thing over here, just a different color. You see it? And you see this thing right here? That's the bone. And this was DNA tested, and this is the CAT scan. This is a 2D CAT scan. The 3D, I will show you, looks almost identical to what they were showing, the cut across. Now watch, don't forget, this is the bone, that's a tendon, and they have red and black blood. Now let's look at the meteorite. You see that? That's the meteorite. You see that circle right there? That's where the red blood is. Coming through space, it cooked up pretty good. But this one over here is a circle, and it is where the darker blood, where the black blood is. You can almost see the little dot in here. I mean, it's kind of hard. It cooked up. I mean, it really smelted, basically. It was almost fluidish. And all of these little chondrites and chondrules in here are from the structural part of it that didn't completely evaporate. But if this had cooked longer and longer and longer, it could have turned into almost entirely iron. However, it's got bone in there, it's got a fingernail, and you can actually see the fingernail. I'll show you. All right, something I have to explain to you about blood and how blood is the iron, basically. And the thumb is saturated with blood. And that was a thumb, the one in space, and the one I have here also is a thumb. And they preserve exceptionally well. Now, all the other fingers also have the same thing. They have a vein, an artery coming in, and a vein coming back. And in the middle, they have all this little webbing going back and forth. They have two on the side here, which are arteries, and two on the sides, which are veins. And they have a tip on each fingers that is the terminal of the artery over to the vein. And then there's a little capillary work in between to finish off the blood, and then it comes back up to the heart to get recharged. But look at that. That is just 100% blood, basically. Now, let's take a look at their fingertip and take a look at my fingertip, because I have one that came through space too. Theirs is a fingertip came through space. Now, here's the key. Theirs was saturated with blood. So theirs actually somehow ended up with like spinning around and having all the blood forced down into the thumb. Now, on Earth, they will actually, the blood will collect in a certain way dependent upon specific gravity. And that's why gold collects in certain places. It's the weight of the gold, and I can show you that. I'll show you everything I'm saying, because I'm not hiding a single thing. And I'm going to show you their fingertip, and I'll show you mine that came through space. Mine didn't have as much blood, but it still had some blood in it because it exploded. Now don't forget, I think you can see there's my fingertip. And that is a thumb because the bone is off-centered. Theirs is the same thing. Their bone is off-centered as over here. It's basically the identical same thing. And then when you get inside, in here, I have the exact same thing in my CAT scan. Hold on. Here's the CAT scan. You see right here, there's the bone. You see the bone? You really can't see much in the CAT scan because it's completely transitioned. Now, the one come through outer space is a little different. But you see the holes? These are the holes for the blood. That's before I said pay attention to these holes. Because the holes are for the blood to go in, obviously. You need the blood go up and come back. And they have a bone. And because it's offset like this, that indicates it's a thumb. All right, and there's this the same way. This is theirs. I just showed you mine. Here's theirs. Now here's where their bone is, right down in here. You see all the white little chondrules in here, and then there's just very few out here, but it sort of makes a little bit of a move out to here. And then this, if you look carefully, you can see there's a circular looking difference in color. You see the difference in color? All right, that's a tendon. All right, the edges of the tendons have a lot of collagens on them because they have to slide and all that. Now on the other side is the same thing. You see this one here? This one here you can basically see the blood has run out. This is just blood running off here, but this is, I believe, the actual center of it. And mine was the same thing. I have one here and one over there. And one of them was red and one of them was black, and the bone was right in here. And you can see. You see this right here? That's about where the bone goes to. Again, it's cooked up. Mine isn't cooked up, but you can see mine absolutely flawless because it's not cooked up. All right, so don't forget, here's mine. All right, there's the bone. It's not cooked up, so we can see it perfect. And here's that tendon over here, and there's a tendon over there. And it's exactly the same. It's virtually identical. And mine was, this is DNA tested, and obviously this is a CAT scan. 2D and 3D, two different types of scans. I had them both done. The 2D is the outside surface, and you can see all kinds of things, details, and the finger tip and all that. I mean the fingernail and all that stuff. And the 3D, you go inside. And in mud fossils, in this type of a mud fossil, there is very little to see inside because it's been basically completely transitioned. But the outside gives you the perfect preservation of the formation, the anatomy. All right, it may not have the exact same chemistry now, but it has the exact same anatomy. All right, this may be a little difficult for you to understand, but it's not hard for you to see. All right, you see all these little straps? This is the actual fingernail. And that's the fingertip in its entirety, and all these little straps running up. Now, if you took this apart, you would have, just below it, you would have the fingernail covering the apical tuft. But this is all of where the tendons coming up invest into just below the fingernail, just below the fingernail. That's important for you to remember because I'm going to show you the big one coming through space. Right, that's the fingernail right there. That's where the fingernail burnt off. This is where all that stuff, the little tendons lock in down here. You see, these are all little tendon ball spots where they lock in. There's a blood supply right there. I mean, it's as simple as that. And this is the fingernail. And then up here, there's a red blood spot here. At the end, they have a red and then they have a black. I believe these are the two. Now don't forget, this has really been burnt up quite a bit. So we're down inside, but this one here is, I believe, the artery. And this is the fingernail. Now, and this is right below where all of that little tendony stuff locks in. Remember? Where is it? You see it? That's where all these little tendons, there's a bazillion of them, and they lock into something called an apical tuft at the very end. And I have one here that's eroded somewhere all the way down to the apical tuft. Now, so what we had just seen is that. Now, can we find any more of these straps? I think we can. Let's look at the other side of the fingertip. We just saw the fingernail. Let's look at the other side. I mean, it's actually kind of hard to miss. This is the bone. You see, there's usually an inner core and then there's the outer core of the bone. The same thing with mine. When I showed the CAT scans, you could see the same, identical. Now, of course, you have the vein and the artery going up, and here's these straps. You see these straps running up? I just showed you those same straps. They run up here and they lock in the fingertip. There's the artery here. This side here, I believe, is the artery, because it's got the red blood and the red blood up here. They have both. There's like two spots on the side and the one coming in at the bottom. This is the same virtually as what I showed you on mine. So this is just burnt up pretty good. It's a good sized fingertip. You know, they come much bigger, but that's not bad. And that's the straps. I just showed you those same straps. See, this is the palm side. These are the fingertips. These are how all those straps come running up just as exactly precisely as you can see right here. That's a fingertip, came through space, and it's metal now. And the reason, you got to understand when things die, how the blood goes to one place or another, and it's usually gravity. Now, if it's in space, I don't know how come this had so much blood, but this appeared to have a lot of blood. I have a fingertip here that I'll show you right now, that the red blood ran out, which means it had to be this way. It had to be this way, and it broke right through the red, through the artery and exploded out. And I have another fingertip here that also did the same thing, and it exploded out, and it was extremely eroded. I'll show you both of those. Hold on. All right, this is ultra cool. This is a fingertip. It's not much different than mine. Now, you see that right there, all that goopy stuff at the end? That's blood. And when it died, it had to be like in this position right here. And the blood ran down and ran out, and it collected here at the bottom. And there's all of the grip skin fibers and everything. But that's when blood runs out. Now, in certain cases, it just collects into gold. Like this is nothing more than a vein. I mean, or an artery. I suppose it's an artery. I think I can see some red blood here and there. And that's just nothing more than an artery. Actually, it would have been coming down this way, and the blood vessels were running off that way. So it's upside down now. But that would have been a blood vessel. And then it depends where it is in the body and how the body died and how the body was laying. Like this right here is a membrane. And that is gold, which is in the middle of a membrane. The quartz filled in the bilipid layers, the top and the bottom, and the fats, for some reason, turned into gold. There's all kinds of different conditions that come up. And there's gigantic ones like, now, what you have to remember now is gold and metals settle. All right, you see this here? That's gold, and that's blood. Well, what's the gold doing with the blood? What's that all about? Well, I can tell you exactly what happened here. This is in the wrong position. It should be like that. And all of the heaviest metals ran down, and the gold collected at the bottom. For some reason, I can't tell you precisely why, the gold seems to collect together and create these, where the arteries were and the veins sometimes. That's probably an artery or a vein, whatever, it's one or the other. These, when they say quartz veins, that's what they are. They filled in with extreme amounts of silicates after the Great Flood. This is all from the Great Flood. You see, and that's the gold and that's the blood. Now, so I showed you the blood coming out of a fingertip. All right, now, let me show you a couple other things to hopefully interest you. Hold on. All right, this is the most important part of anything, is to where was the guy lying and what kind of conditions was he in when he died, or her, or him, or it, or what. Now, I can tell you how a person died. Were they this way, or that way, or this way, or that way, just by the way the metals and the body collects and the surfaces. You see this right here? This one here evacuated everything that was inside of the alveoli. This is a lung. And I can tell you it was like this, laying this way in the mud. This drained all the blood out of it, but all the blood ran down in there and it stayed in there because it was in the wet mud. It never got dry. And it never apparently ever got dry because the blood was still in there. This was sticking out, so all of the fluids ran down below, and this filled up with quartz at some point in the ancient past. But the blood stayed. You see this? When I took it out of the ground, there it was. The blood came out of it. Now, this one here is a regular lung that didn't turn into silicates like this. What happened with this one is the fascia preserved it, and the fascia is the coating, and it's all fiber, very, very fibrous. It's all tangled together like this, and your lungs do this all day long. That's why it's got to have that fabric. And in between that fabric, there's all kinds of biological stuff, blood and this and that. Now, I had this one DNA tested, CAT scanned, and all that stuff. Jesse Garant did the CAT scans, one of the best people in the world. Now, you see how flat that is? This one I know died just flat as a pancake. The whole body was there, and I know the whole body was there because that's where the heart was. This is the left lung, and that's where the heart sits, and the whole body must have died like that, and then it all just sort of evaporated away, boiled off, and everything disassociated from everything else, and you end up with a lung all by itself, completely flat. Now, that's not the only one. They're all over the place. This one here, the pleura, this heavy-duty bag that wraps it, has eroded away some of it, and you can see how dense it is. That has to do this all day long, and this is, again, flat as a pancake, and this is because of flood. And this thing died flat like that, and then something caused it to flop over and this and that, and did this. And that's the tag that holds the lungs in, and there's a tab at the top that holds the lung in so that it doesn't jiggle around in your body. Now, I've shown this many, many times. Now, my point being here is that lungs and hearts specifically turn into iron meteorite, and I mean just total iron, because they boil right off. There's almost entirely filled with blood in your lungs, and your heart is virtually filled with lungs, and your liver is also a source of extreme amounts of metals. Now, I think I can show you a liver that turned into an iron meteorite, and that's one of the coolest ones. And then I can show you a gigantic iron meteorite, and let's get seeing that right now. All right, so don't forget, some of them completely evacuate with everything. You see this? This is a lung too. And this one, everything boiled out of it somehow. And it left just nothing but cavities, and they didn't fill in with silicates. This left nothing but cavities, but then the silicates filled in because it was in the mud. So I don't know. This one, I don't know what happened. But you can still see some blood, the red in there. That's iron. That's what's in a meteorite. I mean, in a lung. Now, this one is almost transplantable. It's like perfect. The pleura's on there just like brand new. It's completely saturated with blood inside. Now, again, totally naked, but still saturated with blood. Completely dressed, still saturated with blood. All right, these are the iron meteorites here. And here's the key. Again, some of them turn into really thick iron, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. And I believe it is a liver. All right, check this out. This is an iron meteorite, and it's all blacked on the other side. You can't see it, but this is the fascia that coats it, is sort of crinkly around the edges. You see it? Now, they cut it, and then I'm sure they must have etched it with a little bit of acid, I would assume. I don't think it cut just like this. But what you see here is black and red. That means a vein and artery. All right? You see the red up here? You see the black down there? It's a vein and an artery. But it has, it doesn't have all kinds of holes in it and everything like a lung would, or even a heart should have some more, a little bit different than this. Because I have a lung here. I'll show you what my lung looks like, which is an iron meteorite too. This is a little closer up. You see it? That's red blood. What the hell is that doing there? And this is all, you see that? That's red blood too. Because this is the coating of the lung, or I mean of the liver. I believe it's a liver. Because the liver doesn't have all that holes in it and all that stuff. It doesn't have a lot of plumbing. It just lets the stuff in and filters it back out, I believe. You see that? That's an iron meteorite, and that was a lung. Well, it's the same as basically as this, only it cooked off coming through space, and it must have been the head of it coming this way, and it boiled off all of the volatile stuff, the watery stuff, and the minerals and things, and left the metals. Now, look here. You see down here? I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if we can get in there close. You see that little red spot right there? That's a little blood vessel. That you could get actually probably DNA out of this if you went deep enough inside. I don't know if it'd be any good or not, but I can tell you right now, this right here is an iron meteorite. All right, and it is a lung. All right, that's a lung. And I can prove it's a lung because it has the latch on it that attaches the lungs. They all have a latch. And this has the latch on it. Not only that, it's got all the same fibers of the interstitium, and then it's got the blood, and the blood actually reacts with the enzyme, which is the enzyme in blood is extremely complex, and it still came through space and burnt off and became iron, and that enzyme is still reactive. And I showed it bubbling off the other day. It bubbles off pretty good. And I could probably, as a matter of fact, I got the scope going. I might as well show you. But I'm going to show you this, and I'll show you the latch that's on here, and everything that I could find coming through space. 100%, 100% is body parts. Even like Comet 67P, gigantic, absolutely enormous, is a hip joint. It looks like, and Bennu, which is an asteroid, and Psyche both are hearts. And that I've shown, and I know they just came back with the blood, literally blood, from Bennu. and they're just going to sample it and say, ooh, 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 ooh. Well, just take a couple of minutes and test out what you got. They had a bunch of scraps that came back excess. All they got to do is look at it. It's going to be blood. It's going to be identical to what's in blood. Virtually identical. There may be some isotopes and things that aren't exactly the same because of the radiation and so forth. But in basic general metals and iron and all that stuff, it's going to be basically about the same ratios as in normal blood. And it depends whether they took it from the artery side or the vein side of the heart. I'm not sure which one they were on. So one of them will have less oxygen than the other, and one of them there'll be difference in chemistry, because one side is depleted blood, it's all used up, and the other side is all charged up. So wherever the side they were on, it depends. Anyway, that's a long. Came through space, that's absolutely ginormous. All right, I showed you these two, they both have a lot of iron in them. Now, this one looked like a piece of bone or something, but it had a lot of blood in it, and the blood boiled out and turned into iron. The blood is almost completely iron. I mean, not completely. It's got a lot of metals in it, but a ton of iron. So if you boil it off and burn it up, that's called smelting. And this is what happened to this one. It smelted off. All right, you see this? This is a bilipid layer. That is normally some kind of fatty fluids and so forth in there. It's a fibrous material, but it runs with fatty fluids all inside there. How it turned to gold, I don't know. But I can show you this is a bilipid layer. And here's what it normally looks like right here. And this is phospholipids. This is phosphorus molecules, and then this is these lipid layers in here. And all cells have a plasma membrane. Every single cell in your body, 100%, even blood cells. The membrane surrounds the cell. So what is its role? Can molecules enter and leave the cell? Yes, they have to. So, but this turned into gold. This turned into gold in the middle, and that stayed into some kind of stone. Now, fascia can also turn into gold. Now I showed you, I want you to look at this carefully. Here we go. Now, remember I showed you the lung here, this one here with it's all eroded like this fabric bag here. And it's just nothing more than like a fabric bag, it really is. And this is what it looks like. These are little white fibers in here. And then it has a gooey matrix surrounding them, and that allows it to do all that stuff. Now, so what does it look like if it got turned into gold? Here it is right here. Something eroded all the gooey stuff. It left some blood. Blood sticks around very, very, very well. And this is the fibers that are in there that allow it to do all that stuff. And even that little fingertip I showed you has fibers like that. I don't know if you can see them. Let me see. You see the fibers? These are the collagen straps and strings and so forth that keep you together. And they're even in your skin. So this is what holds you together. And that's where the blood came out of that one right there. Blood is just it's very, very tenacious. It sticks around forever. As you will see in this iron meteorite, this little iron meteorite I have right here, that still has blood in it. This iron meteorite right here. And again, I'll show you the latch, I'll show you the blood, I'll show you the fibers. And the fibers are in here just like they were in that lung, only they burnt off. And it's all black where the gooey matrix was, but there's still some of the white fibers. All right, remember I showed you the phosphobilipid layer? This is it right here. Now look at this. This right here is one of these layers, and these are the ion channels, these channels for the membranes to let molecules in and out. This right here, they put fire pits in here. Now this is a friend of mine, Tyson Carlson. It's Tyson's Mudfossil Adventures. And he's proven a lot of things in geology just are impossible, absolutely impossible. And I mean, I have too. It's just so obvious now. But he's gone out and really confronted them by saying, "Oh, you say that's an intrusive volcanic dike or whatever they say," and he said he does a very methodical job of showing that that's just not correct. And I do too. I show exactly what it is. And if you understand biology, then you're good to go. When you don't understand biology, you think everything's a rock. It's just not the way it is. It's not that way at all. Now, I've shown you most everything here, I believe. Although in front of me right here, I have a selection of fingertips. And you're going to say, "Oh, Roger, they can't all." Yes, they are. And I will show you them right now. Now, don't forget, this is the way the blood goes through the fingers and the toes. You have 2 on the side and 2 on the ends. And of course they come in, and you have all kinds of, as I showed you, all those tendons are all over the place. You see them? They're everywhere. These tendons, they come and weave around and lock into your fingertips and stuff. And then at the very end, there's an apical tuft. Now let me show you another thing that shows you what the distal phalanges looks like, if I can find it. I thought I had a distal phalanges hanging around here. Yep, there it is. Now, this just shows you the difference between a gorilla and a human hand. But this little fingertip right there, that part right there, is this right here. You see? I don't know if you can see that or not. That black spot right there. That is, of course, it's facing this way, but that's that little piece right there. Now, remember I said there's a vein and an artery coming in? The veins don't blow out normally. They have clamps, so they sort of stay pretty much intact. The arteries blow completely out. And don't forget now, I said there's an artery comes in, and there's 2 on the side. They just blew right out. This died laying like this down here and eroded like crazy because the tip blew out too. And these both blew out from the artery side. And the whole thing, this was the same as the other fingertip that I showed you in the CAT scan. And I have here, this one right here. Can you see that? Yeah. So this was originally the same size as this, but this one eroded much, much, much more. And it was basically right in the same, it was part of the same hand. Now, this is the vein side. You see that little wrinkly spot and that little circle in the center? That's where the vein side was, and there was another one right up here. And that one didn't blow out because they don't blow out. And the same thing on the end, there's one right there. And that doesn't blow out because it's got clamps inside of it. But the arteries always blow out. Now, as I said, there's a batch of fingertips here. But let me show you what a terrestrial fingertip looks like when it just erodes all of its blood out of it and it died flat in the flood. Again, flat. You see this? It died like this. Now, again, there's 2 on the side, which are the vein. These 2 didn't blow out, you see? They did not blow out. And the same thing on the end, it did not blow out. This side, the artery side, they just completely blew out. That's just completely, totally blown out like crazy. And that one's completely blown out like crazy too. Basically the same as this. You see it? These 2 sides blew out like crazy. At the end, it didn't blow out, but this one did. On the other side, they're both clamped off. That's the norm. That's the norm. That's the norm. And this still has its the grip skin. I mean the regular fascia on there. Now, if you can see in the shadowish part, I believe right there was where the fingernail came down to. All right, but I can tell you what, that's part of one of the investments that holds on to all those little cords. You have to put these in the right light and the shadows, and sometimes the right, water always helps. But anyway, that's that finger. Now, this is also a finger, the same thing. It's literally identical. Watch how identical this is. If you can see that right there. Hold on, let me put a little moisture on here. Like I say, sometimes a tiny little bit of moisture helps. Sometimes not, we'll see. All right. That little spot right there. You see it? That is the vein. The same as the vein right here. All right. There it is right there. It's the same as that. And this one up here, which you can't see, it's down in here, is the same as that. All right. On right here, look at this. Look at how identical this is. You see that hook? You see that hook? Same hook. You see it? It comes across and it comes up. It's literally identical. Absolutely identical. You see the hook? See the hook? These are both closed off. Now, talk about identical. Look at this. This side, this one blew out, just ran out its blood because it got squished basically. It squished it, put the blood right out of it. This one exploded. Now, why would this explode? Why would this blood explode? And that is an explosion. That is literally an explosion. And I can tell you why it exploded, because this is a meteorite. And this was a fingertip, came through space. And this is where the fingernail was on this one. And this is where all that little gooey stuff, where the things come and latch up above here. And these are the tendons. You see that? See that circle there? That's not an accident. And there's another circle here, not an accident. And it would have been another one right here that exploded, because this was all red blood. And red blood has all of that moisture in it and everything, and when it came through space it just exploded. The rest sort of burnt and blanched off and ended up with the substructure, which is basically what the finger looks like if it was all defleshed. And again, I believe this was the fingernail was right through here, and it glues in at the bottom, as I showed you in those anatomical pictures. So this is a meteorite, and I don't think anybody's going to say it's not a meteorite. And it blanched off, coming through, it got real hot, and then boom, exploded. And there's still red blood in this. All right, and I did do a catalase test on this. I do recall doing that, and I believe it did have hydrogen peroxide made the catalase come out of it. So this is literally as close to identical as you can possibly get. So this was a little bit bigger of a giant than this. And then this one is a little bit bigger of a giant than that one. But remember the hook? Remember this tab right here? That's this tab right here, see? Alright, this was like the little finger or something, but it all eroded away. And this is from the same hand as that. And I found a palm, I found knuckles and all kinds of stuff. So it's not a one-off. It was all over the place. And I got like a bazillion of them. Here's the actual palm. And that's the cleave between the two pads of your hand. And this pad runs off to your little finger. And this one runs off to your thumb. All this little silvery stuff, that's the grip skin. Grip skin is the tough skin that's on the outside of your fingers, your toes, your palms of your feet, or your palms of your hands and your feet. And it's made to be tough and do a lot of work and then just slough off. There's really no bloody stuff in this. That's why I had to break off a piece of my giant fingertip. This isn't even giant. This is, I think, about 4 feet wide. The other one was 3 feet long, just the fingertip. So in other words, this came from this here, and that's only about, I think, 7 or 8 inches long. And the other one is 3 feet long, and it's just a fingertip, and it still had the fingerprints on it. It was much better condition than this one, and the fingernail and everything, and that was DNA tested, as was this. Both of them human DNA, mitochondrial DNA. All right, this is the DNA tests. I had 3 samples, 3 mud fossils done. And this was from in 2015, took a couple of months to do it. And I sent them the samples. I did the extraction of the samples. So I could have faked it, which I don't. And they're all here. They can be retested if somebody doesn't believe it. And this was the gigantic fingertip, the 3 foot long one. I don't know if I showed you that, but I will. The long, which I showed you, the one as flat as a pancake and had all the fibers in it. And the mud tip, which is this one here. You know, that's the one from the hand, and I have all kinds of stuff from that, knuckles and everything. And they went through all kinds of stuff, negative controls and all kinds of tests and elutions and different, I don't know, all kinds of stuff, amplifiers and so forth. And they all did negative controls and slides and this and that. And here it was right here. Excellent quality DNA was obtained for the 36-inch tip, which was the one I had to break open to go inside and get blood, and for the lung, which is just saturated with blood anyway. The fingertip was not as dense and excellent quality, but it was good. He said it was good, but it wasn't excellent. And then it goes down to Homo sapien, mitochondrial B gene, and D loop region. And this was a very sophisticated test. So this was not half-assed. And I really appreciate the guy doing the test, because I know he took some heat for doing it. Because I was touting all the results of it. And he called me and said, you better be sure that you tell these people you're the one that took the samples. Because everybody said, oh, they had to be contaminated. And they were pointing to him that he contaminated it, which this guy, trust me, this was a high quality deal. And some of my CAT scans, Jesse Garant and Associates did the CAT scans, 7 of them, absolutely fabulous. I had them done other places, and they were just a waste of money. Jesse Garant did actually 7 CAT scans for me, and because they are so interested and so scientifically oriented, there was no charge. 7 CAT scans. We had one done in another place, $1,250. So Jesse Garant and Associate, if you ever want something done, those are the guys. I don't know what they normally charge, but I don't think they were so nice to me. I could never thank them enough. No, Jesse, Fabio, you're the best. Now, I think I've shown you virtually everything here. This one here is another meteorite. This is from NASA. Now look at this. You want to see what that is? You see that little red spot? That little red spot right there? Well, guess what? That's the same as those 2 spots there. You see the bone in the back? You see that little lump coming in the back? That's the same as this. This is the same identical bone head. Right? That's a bone. Everything came through space. Every single thing I can find, 100%. And you show me something that isn't a body part that came through space. Even this here, they're showing this oldest solid material in the solar system. That's ridiculous. That is blood. That's an artery. That's an artery. These are all chondrules. Yes, this is a chondritic meteorite. This one here is a stony meteorite. I think got all kind of different names. It's just nothing but just different body parts. See, chondrules. Those are nothing but the little. A lot of those chondrules are nothing but the little tendon epiphysis balls. The little balls that are all through your body. I mean, they're everywhere. And so is your veins and arteries. All right, this is the bottom of the fingertip that I had CAT scan. These little straps are the same little straps that are running down to the fingertip here. All right, and there's what they call an apical tuft. And every one of these things has a ball on the end, and the balls lock into these holes. You see it? This is an apical tuft. It would sit right in there. And all these little straps, you see them? They're all over the place. And that one there still has a ball attached to it. All the rest of them are pulled out. And it's got this exact same shape. This is exactly what an apical tuft looks like. And it fits right on the tip of the fingertip. So I have them in all types of erosion. You know, they're some places, some of them are just like brand new still. And some of them are extremely eroded, like this one. But you can see the bone black inside there. That's the apical tuft, that bone black. And of course you can see the veins and arteries. So I think I have a sufficient quantity of information and proof. So let's take a look at the iron meteorite in the scope. And I will show you the latch. And they all have this latch. Let me show you what the latch I'm talking about. And this is a new body part. Nobody knows about this except me. And I did show this to an anatomist, and he said, and he's the top guy in fascia. And he said, well, we always just consider it fascia, and it's not. You see that little body part right there? That little wedge is what locks a body part into another part. This is a lung. Of what it was, I don't know. But this is that little lock is on the bottom of every lung. Everyone I've had, 100% of them have that lock. And it is a different substance. Like I have, well, here's one here. You see there's the little lock right there. This lung, that's another one, flat like that. All right, and the other lung, where it was, they all have the same lock. Trust me. Here's one here. This is another type of lung. You see that? And it's got that little flappy looking thing there. That's that latch. It's a whole different material. And this one died like this, and the lung filled in with silicates. This one didn't fill in with silicates. Basically the same thing. But it just eroded away. That's why there is no set, well, there is going to be a set of conditions that cause these things, but I don't know what it is. You know, I know that there's extreme invasion, and then there's semi-invasion, and then there's almost no invasion. Some of them just literally, hold on. You see this? Look at this. Hold on, let me put a little taste of water on. This here, you can't even tell it's not alive. I mean, seriously, it's just unbelievable. Look at that. It looks just like a piece of meat. You know what? I got a better shot. And then I show this, actually, this right here. That right there is that latch that I just showed you on the lung. They really, it appears to me, they lock in almost every body part. And wherever that latch is, this is where they use the acupuncture needles. I discovered that too, which was very interesting because sports injuries, that's the kind of people I'm talking to, because doctors don't think much of fascia. It's just sort of something that's in the way when they have to cut through it, you know. But trust me, this is almost the most important thing in your body. It's a fluid-filled highway, carries all the bacteria and enzymes and products through your body, and picks up lymph and everything else. Very, very important. And it's nowadays recognized as very important. It's actually called a new organ. It's a new organ system, the latest, and this one now is going to be the latest body part. I'm going to call that the spur lock. I lock your lungs in place. All right, this is that latch I'm talking about right there, and this is one that's in a living creature. There's a rip in that, so this is like a sports injury, and that is what holds your body part into another part of your body. Now, in this, there's some very, very interesting stuff. And this, again, is one continuous highway through your entire body. And I found there is, right at the very tip of the bottom here, there is, the fluid-filled highway has to continue. You see these two spots here? Watch this up here. Whoops. Up above in the microscope is the lung from outer space. All right, you see this? That's the latch, and those are those two blood spots. the latch has to come and deliver stuff and bring it back. And I believe those are the two same spots as we see down here. You see them down there? Right on the bottom of that latch. You see them up there, right on the bottom of that latch. Now this is just a guess at this point. But I do know that the fluid has to run entirely through your entire body. And every organ, now listen to me carefully, every organ in your body has different chemistry. Some of them have salts, some of them have acids, some of them have just a lot of blood, all kinds of different. They have different hormones and everything is different. And that means that the coating that surrounds it has a different chemistry, because it has to. It's working with a different biology. It's a different, acids and salts and so forth. So it has to be different. So the fascia, which is what we're talking about, is totally important. And when these latch from one to the next, it has to be able to keep that fluid moving. So that's what I believe these are. Yeah, you see this? Some people say, that looks like a snake. Well, this is on the bottom of a lung. It's the latch. Now, you see down here? It's just the same thing. It's identical. There's no difference whatsoever. 100% identical. All right, and again, this came through space. Now, I'm going to move it around here. It's under the microscope. But I'm just going to show you real quickly, and then I'm going to focus in good. But you see those little white spots? Those are the white fabric. Most of them, like 99% of them, burnt off, but there's a few got left. Now you see how it's black, and again, I'm going to focus in a second. You see all those little red spots? Those are all the alveoli of the lung. And there's a big spot up here. They always have a big one. All right, and we're going to come in here and look at it, and I suppose I should put some catalase on there. It should react. I mean, it's been reacting quite well, so it should. All right, remember I showed you the other lung that was from the Earth and it didn't come through space. It has all these little white fibers in it. Well, it has a zillion more than you see in here because most of them burnt up. But this is the matrix of the goo, really. Now, these are where the blood is inside of the alveoli. Now, I'm going to find the best spot, and then we're going to do the catalase test. And catalase is an enzyme. I think I explained this before, but it's an enzyme that is in your blood. So it would be inside of blood. So if we get a reaction, it means the enzyme in the blood is still active and saying, get out extra oxygen, get away, and it bubbles up, bubbles up, bubbles up. So the hydrogen peroxide goes in with an extra oxygen. And the blood says, no, we don't have, no. And it bubbles that extra oxygen off, exactly what it does in your body. So let me find the best spot, and then we'll do the catalase test. Now, the catalase test does take a minute or two, so it'll take a little minute. I'm going to start right from when it's dry. All right, so get ready. All right, this is the area we're going to be looking at. Now, I have to come way down on it because the bubbles are tiny. So, but this is far off. We're going to try to get down to look at this one here. All right, get ready. I'm soaking it down pretty good right now. It's going to take a second. All right, because when I put the microscope on there, it's got to go right up close. I can't get inside to put any more on. So, give me a second. Make sure we got plenty on there, which I think I do. Now, the light will probably be glaring because of its reflectiveness. Now, I want to be on a red spot, which that is a red spot. Now, I got to focus in here. Look at it. I can see it bubbling away right now. You see that? That is really, literally, where the blood is going. Hold on, let me get back here. You see it swirling around there? This is all right here. You can't see it, but that all that right there, these fuzzy looking spots, that is all bubbling off hydrogen. I mean oxygen. You see it starting to bubble up now pretty good? I'm going to have to put some more on there because it's already wiped out most of the hydrogen peroxide. But all of that white fuzzy stuff there, that is literally bubbling. You see it? It's starting to come up now. It takes a while to really start reacting. Like I said, it's a couple of minutes. But that is what is happening right now. Let me put a little more on it. All right, let's see if we get back in there. Oh, I just had a good shot of it. Hold on. You see it bubbling up? Keep your eye on there. See all the little bubbles? It could take a while. I mean, this thing came through space, so. But I can see them coming out now. You see them? It's starting to work its way down inside. And the deeper it gets inside, the more bubbles will come out because they'll be having more protected. But it is a catalase response. Of that, there is no question. Something here that was on a terrestrial Earth is a whole different situation, like my goose, Caesar. He bubbles up like crazy, but he's a terrestrial creature and didn't come to space. But you can see all these bubbles now. I don't think I can get any closer with this. You know what? I'm going to try something with a different. Well, no, that's not bad. See him bubbling up? It's not a very real strong reaction, but now we're getting a good bubble. Look at that bubble coming up. Bloom. It's starting to break out and get inside to attack the actual blood, and we're starting to get a lot more reactions. Anyway, this is probably getting kind of boring by now, but that's what this is all about. It takes time. You got to play around with this stuff to get the reaction. If you want to see, you got to put the time in. But anyway, that is a meteorite came through space, and there's blood in there. It's just what it is. And it's a tiny little lung. I showed you the latch, I showed you the fabric, and I showed you the catalase test. All right, I don't know if you can see that or not, but you see the little bubbles coming out of it? Anyway, it's biological. Case closed. All right, you may have heard of reactive oxidation species, ROS. Now, catalase is an enzyme An enzyme is produced within your body to do a job, and it does this job. It uses hydrogen peroxide as a non-radical reactive oxygen species as its substrate. The enzyme is responsible for neutralizing through decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide has an extra oxygen, and that's a reactive oxygen. It has to break that down and turn it into water. Hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. All right, it doesn't say it on here, but it is H2O2. What is H2O2? It has an extra oxygen than water, H2O. Right? H2O, H2O2 means we have two oxygens instead of one. That means one of them is going to be a free oxygen and become reactive. We can't have that. So the catalase breaks away that extra oxygen and bubbles it up to the surface. Now, I am going to show you Caesar here. All right, and he is going to be doing something in the interest of science. He's given his body to the interest of science. Caesar, you are a hero, my friend. Now, what are we going to look at Caesar? All right, this is a goose. This is actually his feather pattern in the back of his head. You should be able to see that feather pattern there. All right, and this is all collagens. And here's his neck right here. Now, if you know how to read things with shadows and so forth, you should be able to see what his neck was like. Now, up here is his artery. All right, right there is the artery. Hold on, let me home in on this a little closer. You see right there? That's the artery. All right, and he died laying like this. That's the flat side. This side here is virtually perfect. And his feathers are just exactly what the feathers look like in a bird. All right, now it snapped, and there's his artery. Now we are going to look at that artery and do a catalase test on it. All right, and we're going to see, is that enzyme still active? This, I'm telling you right now, they all died at the same time as far as I'm concerned. In that flood, hot water, silicates, all this, exactly what it takes to create exactly what we have here. And they're all the same. They all have one flat side, and they're aluminum silicates because of the heavy silicon content, because the earth was wrenched and all the deep silicon came to the surface. It's all covered now. So let's see if we have the enzyme still reactive in my little friend Caesar. And I guarantee you it is, because I've done it a number of times, and I don't think it's going to stop. All right, there's only so much enzyme, but I've done it several times. So we're going to look at this with the microscope in a second. Hold on. Okay, we're looking down at Caesar's artery. There's the microscope. All right. Now, here it is up in the screen here. It's a telescoping microscope, so you stay kind of way off the surface, but you get some pretty good detail. Now, this right here is that artery, and you see the seam around it. That's what it's in a tube. Now, this I've scraped up and scratched up so that I could get it, clean it up so I could get down inside. I just do it kind of barbarically, just scrubbing it. Now, I am going to saturate that with hydrogen peroxide. Before I do, I'm going to focus way down close, because otherwise you won't be able to see the foaming. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come way down like this. All right, and we're going to be right on top of that spot. All right, let me just back it out of here just a smidge. All right, because we got to get the microscope. I got to get the microscope out of the way, put a whole batch of hydrogen peroxide on there, and then come back. What we should see is all kinds of bubbling, and I'm no question whatsoever. I guarantee. All right, let me see here, right here. This is probably a better spot. If we're too far off, I'll have to bring it back down. But I think this should show up. All right, let me focus in a little better. All this stuff takes time. Well, I suppose it's not going to get any better than that. All right, let me soak it down here, and then we'll turn it back on. Yeah, it's virtually instant. You see it? All of that is catalase reaction to this hydrogen peroxide. When you see that, that's all blood is reacting with its enzyme within the blood to say, no, too much oxygen here. You're all reactive, get out. And it's turning the hydrogen peroxide into water, H2O. So that's Caesar's neck. And that's a serious reaction. There's a lot of catalase in here. It's pretty obvious. Now the one, I think I showed you the one coming through space, that didn't have, it's just, the catalase breaks down, and because, you see it, this is not a cheap molecule. This thing here, it has to be exactly like that. And when they get heated, they can break the bonds. When they break the bonds, they don't react, they don't do the job. This has no broken bonds. This is like brand new. All right, here's my claim, is that this literally is the fingernail. That's why it's all different looking than the rest. This right here, notice these little holes and bumps down here. And there is, it looks to me like a blood spot. And as a matter of fact, I looked at it closely and it most certainly is. Now, this is where the fingernail was. And right below it, this right here is where there's a whole bunch of little balls that engage in here that hold right below your fingernail. And I think I've shown you that, or I will right this minute. This is what is right below your fingernail. All right, there's two sets here, right here. All right. You see here, there's the flesh around your fingernail, and the fingernail's there. This is just with the fingernail, and then all of those little things that come up there. And then this is the fingernail mist, and then we're down to here and so forth. Now, all of those little straps are also on that finger. So don't forget, this is the top side, and this is the fingernail, and that's where all those little balls are underneath. Obviously, there's just some fleshy stuff still here. Heavy iron, which there's a lot of blood in this fingertip. That's one of the bloody areas towards the tip of the finger. There's the artery and the vein. I think this is the artery side, the red side. And so that again is the fingertip. Now, look, what about the bottom side? Well, here's the bottom side. They cut this slab off, and here it is. You see these little tendons? These are the same tendons. They're everywhere. They're all over the place coming up to attach to these little balls that are all in up here. And there's the red artery up here, red artery back there. Here's the artery and the vein right here. And that ball, that round circle, is where the bone was. And these are the tendons, the flip, these edges right here. That edge right over here and this edge right over here. And these are the vein and the artery, these two. This was a fingertip came through space, just like the one I have here. I think I showed you mine, I'm pretty sure. Now, again, this was cut off, and this is what they call chondritic meteorite, which is the little things in here that aren't actually metals, but there's a lot of metal because there was a lot of blood. You can actually see the edges. If you look around for the edges of things, you'll see where you got to look for signs. You got to understand what you're looking at. And this is exactly as I showed you mine. I mean, virtually exactly the same. This is it right here. These are the tendons, one here. The bone right here. The look is exactly the same. And then there's blood vessels running through it the same way the other one is. Just like this, the blood vessels running right here. And when you look at it in a 3D CAT scan, you can see it quite easily, wherever that is. Well, I guess I don't have it up here. But anyway, oh yeah, here it is right here. Yeah, you see there's the bone that's in mine. You got to take it in, you got to look at it. It's very subtle. Because this was completely invaded. And this is the blood vessels that come up to feed the bone at the end. I mean, to feed the finger all the way up to the end. All right, so once again, that is the fingertip, and that is a lot of iron because it's smelted off coming through space, and there is just a ton of blood, which is primarily iron in the fingertips, especially the thumb. Now, it's smelted off and created this iron meteorite, and I have the same thing here with a little tiny lung. I'm pretty sure I showed you that. And I have another iron, not an iron meteorite, but a stony meteorite that also came through space that the blood exploded out. I believe I showed you that. You've seen, I believe, this one here, the iron meteorite that smelted off, and the actual bloody spot in this one here, right there. You see it, that little red spot? That's not there by accident. That's where blood passed through that lung. All right, my friends, I must apologize. The next few minutes, the sound just went real low, so you have to turn it up. But this is a giant toe, and that is the callus on this giant toe. And that's right there is, well, you're going to have to listen to this because it ran a little while and I don't want to have to do the whole thing over again. But this is the fingernail on this giant toe, the toenail. And this was the callus. This is absolutely incredible how big that callus was. And so anyway, I'm going to let it play this in its entirety, but the sound is very poor. But it's there's gold in this thing, and that's this callus on the guy's toe. That's the side of his toe. It's incredible how big this callus is. Anyway, I'm going to let you watch this, but I do apologize for the sound, and nothing I can do about it now. Don't forget, my claim is this right here is the fingernail. That's why it's a different texture to it. And right down here are those exact same holes. That's where these tendons lock in. Now this, it had to be very, very saturated with iron because it did turn into primarily iron. But it's still chondritic. It's not completely iron like that one I showed you, which I said I think was the liver, or like the lung. The lung was virtually turned into 100% iron as well as that liver. And other stuff can turn into a lot of iron, which this did, but it's not like a heart or a lung or a liver. Those are the three primary dense blood organs. But fingers and such can be very, very dense with blood, as I showed you. They can be extremely dense with blood, especially in the case of a mudfossil where the hand is running down this way, all the blood runs out. And you see, the thumbs are just saturated. They're all saturated because that's the terminal of your hand. And if it's run down like that, they will collect at the bottom. And I have a toe here, a gigantic toe, from a giant. It's a giant human, looks like to me. And it has a callus on the side where the red blood should blow out, and it didn't blow out. And I think it's saturated with gold. The black side blew out, never does. The black side never, ever, 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 ever blows out. They always cap off. But in this position, there was so much blood coming down that the callus was like a patch on it. It couldn't get out. So it blew out the black side. Well, I'll show it to you with that. All right, this is unbelievable. But it is true. This right here is where the vein came in, and it's blowing out backwards black. You see that right in the center? This whole side is black, as you'll see in a second. And that never happens. They seal off. They never blow the black blood out. This side is literally a callus. This is a big toe, and this sucker is heavy. That, is a callus. You see that? That's a callus. You see it wrapped up around here? And see how cornified looking that is? I'm going to show you this. There's no missing. That's a callus. This is the bottom of the toe right here, and that's the callus right there. That's how thick that sucker is. That's the bottom of the guy's toe, and there's the pad that they have in the back of the toe. You know, you got one on yours too. This isn't far off from a human. I mean, it probably is a human. I don't know. And baby, this sucker is heavy. All of that little grip skin. You see that little fibrous, grippy skin there? This is tough. This is tough. All right, and there's where the fingernail, the toenail was. And this guy could have had toe fungus. I don't know. it doesn't look too good. But he died like this. Oh man, is this thing heavy? He died like that. All right, and all the blood was running down, and it had nowhere to go because it couldn't get out of the patch. All right, this patch covered up the red blood, so it couldn't get out. So what happened? Oh, the black blood blew out. You see it? That's the black blood. Never does that. Ever, 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 ever. I've never seen it before or since. And this is the black side. Right, there's the little spot right there. And they blew out from these sides over here. I don't know where it was, but this is all black blood. Black blood doesn't blow out. I guess it's right here. But it's going to find any hole that it can get out of there. There might be more than 2 or 3 or 4. I don't know. But that one there exploded out. It's pretty obvious now. And it looks like that was a spot where it came out too. And it's all of that black blood squirted out of it. And here it is in the back. You see it? And that's exactly what you have here on the fingertip. Same thing. You got that, and on the toe, this side wrapped up pretty good. It's still pretty wrapped up, but you can see this right there if you look. That was where the red blood wanted to go in, and he couldn't get in. You see it? That circle there? That's the circle. That's right the dead center of where the red wanted to go. And he couldn't get out. So it collected in here, and I'm sure there's gold in here, because the gold will run to the bottom. And I mean, I know there is. I've looked at it. You can see it right here. It's all over the place. I'll put it in a microscope. You see it? See it, all this shiny looking stuff? Those are all transition metals in gold primarily. So, you know, I don't really care about the gold. I just like to understand what's going on there, and that's what it is right there. But you see all that little shiny stuff? Let me see if we can see here. See that shiny stuff? Hold on, let me see if I can change the light around. But again, I'll put the microscope and lighting it this way. I don't know what you can see or can't see, but that is where the callus was, and this is all metals that are trying to escape out of there. And they couldn't get out, so they collected some little bits in here, but there's a ton behind here in all of that blood vessel stuff. You see this cornified skin on these bumps? That's the same thing you have on your, if you didn't take care of your feet too. All right, you know, that's a serious looking callus. You see? That is a monster callus. Now let's go Let me get it over here under the microscope and we'll take a couple shots here. Alright, this is looking down at the callus, on the side of the callus here. And these are little flakes of gold, all kinds of different metals. You see them? They're all over the place. And there's gold, there's probably silver, there's copper, there's all the different metals collect, trying to filter their way through. And they have just collected so that they've just jammed up the whole process here. There's some kind of a blood vessel there. You see, this is what happens. Now, in some places, they will actually get totally saturated with gold. But that's more when you have like a lung or a heart, and it just happens to be in the right configuration at the lowest point of the creature's body. And then the blood will run out of that spot, and if it starts to collect, like in places like this, it'll back up. And I'm telling you, behind this there's going to be a lot of gold. I mean, when I say a lot, I'm not talking about a ton or anything, but I'm talking about, you know, a significant amount. I don't know how much significant really means. I believe this is primarily gold. And there's different grades of gold, you know. Gold isn't just gold. There's all different carats, which means more purity to the gold and less inclusions. That, I'm pretty sure most of that stuff is gold. And you see all these little spots? That's where it tried to force its blood out, and plasma and so forth came out of there, and the gold started to collect here and there. So anyway, that's the giant callus toe. Okay, I suppose I'm going to leave it at this. Don't forget, the blood, the bone, the tendons, all these little tendon fibers, the apical tuft, it's exactly like what you have here, identical. And this plate, as I showed you, is identical to what the 2D CAT scan looked like. So I love you all. And I think I've made my case once again, and I think it's time to start examining these things for what they are. All right? So I love you all. Bye. Okay, my friends. What I want you to do is come up to Mudfossil University, the home page here, and community. Now, I talked to some people at YouTube today, and they actually contacted me and said that my numbers are way off. I should be getting more people viewing the videos, and I agree with that. I don't know what was going on. So they recommended that I do a few things, which I am going to do. But in addition to that, they recommended that we all come up here to this community tab. Now, they recommended this before, and I did. I put these up here on the community tab, and nobody ever responded. So that was a month ago. Now, we can do polls. We can do, you know, polls on what do you want to see? What is the most important thing to you for you to see? And, you know, and again, all I care about is being true reality and being able to accept reality. And then we can do research, where we do material research and don't dismiss everything as, oh, it's just all fake and all that business. That's just not the channel here. We want to look at it and make a determination of what is true and what isn't true, backed up by evidence. All right, so, and I'd like to do some live streaming videos, and I have some good ideas of, like, I won't explain exactly, but for a very good interaction, I hope, where I make a bunch of claims and then I just say, okay, now let's just talk about those. and hopefully people will interact and say, well, how do you explain this? How do you explain that? How do you explain the other thing? And there's things I can't explain. But there's things that are absolute certainty. And even though, these creatures are just gigantic that I'm talking about, they're on the Earth. They're on the globe. The Earth is round, and the Earth is just not a big, gigantic, flat plane that they can walk around forever. It's just, and that's the kind of stuff, I don't want to get into that at all. Please stay away from that topic of the Earth being flat. It's not flat. You can see it from space. There is space stations up there. There is all kinds of things going on in space. We've been to Mars. All of that nonsense. All right? So I don't want to have that kind of just an argument going on. That's not true. It's all fake. I got to be honest with you. I'm pretty much done with that. So don't do that, please. All right? No. But we want to interact on the community tab, and I answer questions the best I can, and hopefully we can get this into the mainstream where people will watch it, and they won't think we're just crazy people just dismissing everything and making up all these nonsense claims. My claims are never nonsense. 100%. 100%. That's 1 and 2 zeros and then a percentage sign after is backed up with material evidence. I dismiss nothing. I accept nothing. I investigate. When I am done investigating, I make my claims, and I make them based on pointing out the evidence. I don't make them claim on, well, you have to believe this or you can't believe that, or everybody knows this, or oh, this is peer reviewed. No. You got to make up your own mind when you see the evidence. And anybody that dismisses this evidence, I have no respect for them. To not discuss it, I have no respect for anybody that's in any of these realms that's making statements about meteorites and about rocks and about our ancient history and any of that stuff. If they won't engage with what here is material evidence, no respect.